Introduction.
In this video series, various subjects such as physics, biology, psychology, spirituality, and politics are all integrated into one geometrical structure, which is called the Zeptoform. One of the main topics of the Zeptoform theory is isomorphism. Isomorphism is a similarity of form. It is a one-to-one correspondence between the elements of two or more groups. The Zeptoform is used to see various kinds of isomorphism in the universe, and it enables us to apply the knowledge of one field to many other fields. For example, by finding the isomorphism between elementary particles and personality types, we will be able to use the knowledge of particle physics for analyzing personality types, and vice versa. In this way, we can build bridges between many different fields. In addition to the isomorphism between elementary particles and personality types, we also discuss the isomorphism between musical notes and personality types. This is the integration of particle physics, music theory, and personality type theory. Consequently, we will be able to use the knowledge of any of these fields to analyze the other fields. This is the three-dimensional structure of the Zeptoform. The word zepto comes from the word septem, or hepta. The former is Latin, and the latter is Greek. Septem or hepta means 7, and it is related to September. September was originally the 7th month, but it was changed to the 9th month. Likewise, the Zeptoform has 7 basic points, but 2 additional points, point 3 and point 6, emerge periodically to make 9 points. The meaning of this emergence will be discussed in Chapter 1. The Zeptoform has 9 points, but when you look at this structure from the front, top, and side, 2 points are superposed, and thus you can see only 7 points. For example, when you look at this structure from the front, point 1 and point 9 would be superposed by point 3 and point 6. As already discussed, the word zepto indicates 7. Also, it is a unit prefix in the metric system. That is 1,000 to the power of -7. For example, 1 zeptosecond is a trillionth of a billionth of a second. A zeptosecond is the smallest division of time, yet observed by physicists. Zeptometer and zeptogram will be discussed later in this video series. This structure is called the Enneagram. As we will see in this video series, the 9 points of the Enneagram correspond to the 9 points of the Zeptoform. According to the law of 7 of the Enneagram theory, 7 points among the 9 points are related to the 7 notes of a musical scale. These 7 points correspond to the 7 basic points of the Zeptoform. As already discussed, zepto indicates 7.
The 3 levels of truth.
According to A.H. Almas, point 8, point 9, and point 1 are called the body of truth, the heart of truth, and the mind of truth. These 3 points can be described in the following way. From the bottom, the body of truth was initially located at the perineum, which is the location of the first chakra, but it moved down to the calves. The calf is called the second heart because its muscles work like a pump to push deoxygenated blood back up to the heart. The heart of truth is located at the heart, which is the location of the 4th chakra. The heart of truth is also called holy love. Point 2 and point 4 can be considered to be part of the heart of truth. The heart is called the second brain because its nervous system communicates with the brain. The mind of truth is located at the vertex, which is the location of the 7th chakra, but it can go up to the supreme vertex. The location of the supreme vertex is identical to the entry point to the Ba. According to Tom Kenyon, the entry point to the Ba is called the Ba point. It is the entry point to the ultimate state in which we can transcend space and time. Tom Kenyon described the Ba in the following way.
Your bar does not have a location in time and space, since it is transcendent to both. But it does have an entry point, which is about arm's distance above your head. If you were to raise your hands over your head, and touch your fingertips, your fingers would be in the vicinity of this entry point.
In ancient Egypt, The ba is characterized by a human-headed bird, and it is flying out of the physical body. According to Tom Kenyon, it is considered to be the celestial higher self. In earlier periods of Egyptian history, it was believed that only the king had the ba, but in later periods of the history, the belief was changed. That is, every person has the ba. Point 7 and Point 5 can be considered to be part of the mind of truth. As discussed, Point 1 of the Zeptoform can go up to the supreme vertex. As discussed previously, in the structure of the Enneagram, 7 points among the 9 points are related to the 7 notes of a musical scale. The interval between B and F is called the tritone, which creates an unstable sound. In order to resolve this dissonance, B needs to be moved to C, and F needs to be moved to E. Related to this phenomenon, the process from type 5 to type 8, and from type 4 to type 1, are integration processes. On the other hand, when B moves to A and F moves to G, an unpleasant sound is created. Related to this phenomenon, the process from type 5 to type 7, and from type 4 to type 2, are disintegration processes. As we can see, there are algorithmic correspondences between the law of music and that of personality. With that said, we discussed only a small portion of the whole algorithmic correspondences. We will see a lot more in Chapter 2. These algorithmic processes of the Enneagram theory are integrated into that of the Zeptoform theory. Then, these processes are used to create the Zeptoform music. Now, we will briefly listen to it. This is one type of the Zeptoform music. The Zeptoform can be seen as the essential component of Metatron's cube. The name Metatron refers to Archangel Metatron. According to the Kabbalah, the Jewish tradition of esoteric interpretation of the Bible, Metatron is the highest-ranked archangel, having more power than Archangel Michael. Metatron's cube contains 5 platonic solids. These are called tetrahedron, hexahedron, octahedron, dodecahedron, and icosahedron. Also, the Star of David is contained in Metatron's cube. As already discussed, the Zeptoform can be seen as the essential component of Metatron's cube. According to Plato's theory of ideas, the 5 platonic solids are considered to be universal archetypes. Likewise, the 9 holy ideas of the Enneagram theory are considered to be universal archetypes. The word idea in holy ideas comes from Plato's theory of ideas. The 9 holy ideas as archetypes are the 9 enlightened perspectives of reality, and they are represented by the 9 points of the Enneagram, as well as the Zeptoform. Oscar Ichazo is the originator or discoverer of the concept of holy ideas of the Enneagram theory. He claims to have received some spiritual messages from Metatron. Plato's theory of ideas is also called the theory of forms. Having said that, the word form in Zeptoform comes from this terminology. The knowledge of holy ideas was passed on to A.H. Almas. In part based on this knowledge, he has created a spiritual method called the Diamond Approach. In this video series, we will focus on his method. The Zeptoform, as the universal archetype, can be used to see the relationship between reality and personality. In the Zeptoform theory, that is called persona reality.
The table of contents.
This video series is composed of the introduction and 5 chapters. In Chapter 1, we discuss the basic structure and the algorithmic processes of the Zeptoform as well as the Enneagram. These basic factors are used in other chapters. For example, in Chapter 2, the algorithmic processes are used to describe the creation process of the universe. Also, they are used to compose music. In this way, we can integrate physics, music theory, and personality type theory. In Chapter 3, the algorithmic processes of the Enneagram, as well as the Zeptoform, is used to analyze the developmental process of humans, as well as politics. In Chapter 4, by using the Zeptoform, MBTI, which has been developed based on Jungian typology, is integrated with the Enneagram, as well as the structure of the brain. Also, a new way of seeing gender categorization will be discussed in this chapter. In Chapter 5, we will discuss Zeptoformic Kabbalah. That is the integration of the Zeptoform theory and the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life is composed of 10 circles and 1 unseen circle. The unseen circle is drawn as a dashed line. Each circle, or sphere, represents a different quality of God, and it is protected by a different archangel. For example, the topmost sphere, which is called Keter, represents a diamond and a regal crown, and it is protected by Archangel Metatron. As discussed in this introduction, according to Kabbalah, the Jewish tradition of esoteric interpretation of the Bible, Metatron is the highest-ranked archangel. Then, the integration of all archangels is called Zeptron. Chapter 1, Zeptoformic Essentials. Section 1, The 6 Types, Categories Part 1. Enneatypes can be divided into thinking, feeling, and instinct. These are called the 3 centers. Each center has 3 types, and 2 of them have opposite tendencies, as indicated by the out and the in. The out and the in of the 3 centers can be illustrated as 3 layers, as illustrated. These 3 layers with the 6 types will be analyzed from here.
Extroversion and introversion.
Extroversion versus introversion is one of the big 5 personality traits. The out and the in of the 3 centers are related to extroversion and introversion. Archetypal type 7 is an extroverted thinking type, and archetypal type 5 is an introverted thinking type. The same pattern can be seen in the feeling center. That is, archetypal type 2 is an extroverted feeling type, and archetypal type 4 is an introverted feeling type. But, in the instinctive center, this pattern is violated. That is, although archetypal type 8 is the extroverted instinctive type, archetypal type 1 is not an introverted instinctive type. That will be discussed step by step. Type 1 tends to have a strong moral sense and tends to suppress his instinctive desire inwardly. Therefore, the tendency of type 1 is indicated by in relation to instinct. However, the function of the in of type 1 is different from that of type 5 and type 4. That is, unlike type 5 and type 4, type 1 does not utilize the function of its own center. Type 1 has the tendency to suppress his instinctive desire, and this suppression is caused by the thinking function. Because of this, according to many Enneagram teachers, such as Riso, Hudson, and Naranjo, type 1 is categorized as a thinking type, of Jungian typology. Therefore, point 1 goes up to the thinking level, as illustrated. An instinctive type has the tendency to utilize or prioritize the function of instinct, but type 1 tends to suppress it by the thinking function. Therefore, by definition, type 1 is not an instinctive type. The out and in of the instinctive center metaphorically symbolize the relationship between beast and God. Related to this, Helen Palmer described this relationship in the following way.
If there's such a thing as Enneagram opposites, this is it. 1s are right because they're good, and if they're not right, they feel guilty. 8s are right because they're bad. It's good to be bad. Bad is lawless and free and exciting. 1s teach 8s about limits and boundaries. 8s teach 1s to go for what they want.
There is another modification. The thinking pattern of type 1 is moralistically social, and this sociality brings about characteristics of extroversion. Therefore, in terms of extrovert and introvert, point 1 belongs to extrovert. Related to this, according to many Enneagram specialists, such as Riso, Hudson, and Naranjo, type 1 is an extroverted thinking type of Jungian personality typology.
Note:
As discussed, according to many Enneagram teachers, type 1 is considered to be an extroverted type. However, according to some psychological research, type 1 tends to be an introverted type. This contradiction will be discussed in Chapter 4. In that chapter, we will find the correlation between Enneatypes and Jungian types. Chapter 1, Section 2, The 6 Types, Categories Part 2. In the previous section, Enneatypes are divided into thinking, feeling, and instinct. Then, in this section, these types are divided into will, insight, and action. Will types and action types are extroverted, and insight types are introverted. As discussed in the introduction, holy ideas are essential perspectives to see reality. From the perspectives of holy ideas, we can effectively experience essential qualities. Many of these essential qualities have specific colors, and some people can literally see these colors during spiritual practice. For example, the essential quality of strength can be seen as red. In the Zeptoform Theory, holy ideas are called essential ideas, but holy ideas and essential ideas are not exactly the same, as we will see. In this figure, we can see essential ideas of 6 Enneatypes. They are categorized into 3 major essential ideas: will, insight, and action. First of all, we discuss essential insight. That is the essential idea of both Type 4 and Type 5. The former is origin, and the latter is omniscience. From the perspective of omniscience, the following essential qualities tend to be experienced. Blue is described by Almas in the following way.
Blue is usually called the aspect of pure consciousness, but it is also the aspect of knowingness. Even intellectual knowledge is based on this capacity.
The blue essence, which is pure consciousness, is experienced in the center of the head. Black, which is also called shining black, is the essence of intuition. That is experienced at the forehead, at the 6th chakra. The diamond guidance, which is higher intellect, is the essence of analysis and integration. That is experienced at the forehead, the same as black. It functions as a guide for revealing the truth. The insight of the diamond guidance enables us to integrate other essential aspects to create the diamond structure. For example, when the blue essence is integrated by the diamond guidance, the blue diamond of the guidance emerges. The experience of the blue diamond is different from that of blue. When we experience the blue diamond, the recognition of blue becomes precise and clearer, and thus we can integrate blue with other essential aspects. Among many essential aspects, the black essence is especially important for the function of the diamond guidance. When the black essence is integrated by the diamond guidance, the black diamond of the guidance emerges. Almas said,
The precision of the black diamond gives insight and understanding. When the black diamond dominates the functioning of the diamond guidance, it embodies the power of cutting through. All the diamonds have the quality of cutting through lies and concepts. However, This capacity attains its full power with the black diamond. The direct awareness of the operation of the diamond guidance does not occur until the subtle perceptual capacities of black begin to function.
In Buddhism, the diamond wisdom is called Vajra, and the Buddha is considered to be type 5 by many Enneagram teachers. From the perspective of origin, the following essential qualities tend to be experienced. Violet is the essence of aesthetic sensitivity and sensibility. This essential color is mentioned very little in the diamond approach. Black is the essence of intuition, as discussed previously. In the Zeptoform Theory, black is also called ultraviolet, which is invisible light, and thus it can be seen as black. The point, which is also called essential self, or essential identity, is the core of awakening to the true self. Sandra Maitre said,
The actual experience is sometimes of being a shining star, a point of light, emerging out of the vast blackness of space.
The point is experienced as a point of light, as described. This point of light can be experienced at various times throughout our lives, creating a sense of many points. When we connect these points, the thread of light emerges as a lifeline. That is, the point is transformed into the thread. Various experiences in our lives are connected to one essential meaning, which is the meaning of our true identity.
The point diamond.
When the insight of the point is integrated into the insight of the diamond guidance, the point diamond emerges. The insight of the point diamond enables us to recognize any diamond structure as our essential identity. In order to experience the point diamond effectively, the perspective of origin needs to be integrated into the perspective of omniscience. Almas described the difference between omniscience and origin in the following way.
Holy omniscience refers to the horizontal oneness, and holy origin refers to the vertical oneness. Holy omniscience eliminates the sense of boundaries or separateness between things, and holy origin eliminates the sense of separateness between things and their source, which is the origin. Holy omniscience is the absence of disconnection on the same level, while holy origin is the absence of disconnection between levels.
When the perspective omniscience integrates the perspective of origin, both the horizontal and vertical boundaries become transparent. In this realization, the point diamond can be fully functioning. Almas said,
The point is experienced as part of the diamond guidance. The diamond guidance is a structure of many different colorful diamond qualities, in the center of which is the point. The diamond structure focuses there.
In the teachings of Ichazo, essential insight is called holy transparency. It is the insight to see through boundaries. The boundaries become transparent. In the teachings of Ichazo, the holy transparency does not include the holy idea of type 4, but in the Zeptoform theory, it includes both omniscience and origin. As already discussed, the insight of omniscience, which is the insight of type 5, enables us to make vertical boundaries transparent. On the other hand, the insight of origin, which is the insight of type 4, enables us to make horizontal boundaries transparent. Next, we discuss essential will. That is the essential idea of both type 1 and type 2. The former is perfection, and the latter is affection. From the perspective of perfection, the following essential qualities tend to be experienced. Brilliancy is the essence of intelligence. It is related to the awakening of the 7th chakra, the highest level energy center. Many aspects of essence have specific colors, but brilliancy is clear light. It includes the wavelength range of all colors, and thus represents perfection. Almas described this essential aspect in the following way.
When you experience brilliancy, you feel complete, in the sense that all essential aspects are present but not differentiated. We can say that it is the source out of which all essential aspects differentiate. That is why in the past I used to call brilliancy the essence of the essence. Brilliancy is frequently related to God's will.
Amber gold will be discussed later. From the perspective of affection, the following essential qualities tend to be experienced. Pink, or magenta, is the most basic essential aspect of love, which brings about the feeling of linking to someone. It is also called fluffy love. Honey gold, which is also called merging gold, or merging love, is another aspect of love. Almas described this essential aspect in the following way.
It is like a delicate clear honey-like flow, as if the sun is shining through the delicate honey.
As discussed, pink or magenta is also called fluffy love, and honey gold is also called merging love. The former, which is fluffy love, brings about the feeling of linking to someone. On the other hand, the latter, which is merging love, brings about the feeling of merging with someone, especially a beloved baby. Amber gold and honey gold can be described in the following way. In the Zeptoform theory, gold is considered to be the essence of value, and it has two aspects, amber gold and honey gold. The former is the essence of type 1, and the latter is the essence of type 2. Amber, which signifies fossilized tree resin, represents amber-like firmness. On the other hand, honey represents honey-like fluidity. The former, which is firmness, is related to the value of completeness and perfection, and the latter, which is fluidity, is related to the value of growth and nurturance. Perfection, which is the perspective of type 1, is intrinsically related to the quality of value. That is, when we see something is lacking, incomplete, not perfect, it lowers the value of the object. On the other hand, affection, which is the perspective of type 2, supports the process of growth to perfection. Type 1 and type 2 are superego types, and Almas said,
For most people, value is the value of the superego.
that is, the core function of the superego is judging good and bad, and that is intrinsically related to one's value system. Value is intrinsically related to the meaning of our lives, and it is related to the function of willpower. Both type 1 and type 2 are willpower types, and they tend to make value judgments using the function of their superego.
Note:
Unlike the Zeptoform theory, in the diamond approach, gold is not considered to be the essence of value. That will be discussed later.
The brilliancy diamond.
When the wisdom of the brilliancy, which is related to type 1, is integrated into the wisdom of the diamond guidance, which is related to type 5, the brilliancy diamond emerges. The perspective of type 1 and type 5 are complementary in terms of wisdom. Riso and Hudson describe this relationship in the following way.
1s and 5s both correspond to Jungian thinking types, the 1 to the extroverted thinking type, and the 5s to the introverted thinking type. 1s are deductive, operating from principles to specific applications, 5s are inductive, operating from given data to form more sweeping theories. Both are philosophical, and love knowledge.
As described by Riso and Hudson, type 1 is deductive, and type 5 is inductive.
Deduction.
From a basic principle, deriving answers for individual issues. For example, the basic principle or premise of point 1 is reality is perfect. From this basic principle, answers for individual issues are deduced. Because of this, an average type 1 tends to be perfectionistic.
Induction.
From individual elements, or aspects, constructing a basic principle. For example, type 5 tends to observe many different aspects of reality. Then, he tries to integrate all aspects in order to induce a basic principle, which is a theory of everything. By discerning all essential aspects from the perspective of omniscience, we can induce the structure of truth, including the Zeptoform. In this induction process, we can simultaneously use deduction. In the process of induction and deduction, the perspective of perfection is encompassed by the perspective of omniscience. That is, transparent light, or white, which represents perfection, can be treated as one element of the unified color system of omniscience. In this integration process, brilliancy of point 1 begins to function within the diamond guidance of point 5, which is called the brilliancy diamond of the diamond guidance. The experience of the brilliancy diamond is described by Almas in the following way.
The more inquiry needs the total functioning of brilliancy, the perfection and completeness, the more brilliant the guidance becomes. By becoming more brilliant, our inquiry attains greater intelligence. Through the operation of brilliancy in the guidance, our inquiry can become more brilliant, luminous, illuminating, penetrating, complete, comprehensive, and perfect in its functioning. Intelligence functions in the diamond guidance as the presence of the brilliancy diamond. Recognition of gold.
By adding the spectrum from red to blue, the color gradation of red, orange, yellow, and clear light emerges. In the process from yellow to clear light, yellow acquires the shining quality of clear light. That is, yellow becomes shining yellow, which is also called gold, and it is the essence of value, because clear light has the quality of perfection. When gold acquires the quality of clear light, perfect value emerges. Blue light is coming into the golden clear light at the top of the arrow. Related to this, a blue diamond is considered to have the highest value. Also, a blue diamond has higher clarity than any other diamond. Like natural diamonds, the blue essence, which is pure consciousness, is experienced when the clouds of thought in our mind clear off. It indicates the increase in the clarity of a diamond. The relationship between gold and blue will be analyzed step by step. In the diamond approach, essential qualities are considered to be the qualities of truth. But, Almas said,
all essential qualities are truth. However, we also find a particular essential aspect, that is the aspect of truth itself.
In the diamond approach, gold is considered to be the essence of truth. Then, the blue diamond enables us to see the gold essence as truth. Almas says,
the blue diamond makes it possible for us to discern truth. We are exploring the place of truth in inquiry and understanding as an element in the diamond guidance. Knowing that there is such a thing as objective truth is fundamental to our process of inquiry. The capacity for direct knowing is related to the blue aspect, the aspect of consciousness and knowing.
As described by Almas, in order to know the truth, the diamond guidance needs to integrate the blue aspect, from which the insight of the blue diamond emerges. The insight of the blue diamond enables us to see the quality of truth. He said,
knowing essential truth means experiencing oneself, or experiencing consciousness, on the level of essence. When we experience our consciousness, which is the blue aspect, as truth, it attains a solid gold quality. This is because truth is the gold aspect. And, when our presence feels like solid gold, we are experiencing the presence of truth. So, truth is a golden presence.
In this figure, gold and blue are illustrated. From the perspective of the blue diamond, we can recognize the essential quality of gold. When we are seeking the perfection of truth, we tend to experience the ascending process from red to orange to yellow and to the brilliancy gold diamond. In this process, we experience the increase in value of truth. Because of this, the experience of gold, which is the essence of value, tends to be interpreted as the experience of truth.
Note 1.
As discussed, in the diamond approach, gold is not considered to be the essence of value. That is, in the diamond approach, amber alone is considered to be the essence of value. On the other hand, in the Zeptoform theory, amber is considered to be the essence of maturity, antiquity, tradition, and classic. When it acquires the quality of gold, it becomes amber gold, which is perennial value or traditional value.
Note 2.
As already discussed, brilliancy is the essence of perfection, and that is experienced as the will of God. Then, the integration of brilliancy and amber gold brings about perfect value, which might be experienced as platinum. Almas said,
platinum is the aspect of universal will.
In the teachings of Ichazo, essential will is called holy will. However, it does not include the holy idea of type 1, which is holy perfection. But unlike the teachings of Ichazo, according to Almas, perfection, which is the holy idea of type 1, is considered to be the intellectual aspect of holy will. In the teachings of Ichazo, the holy idea of type 2 is called freedom, but in the Zeptoform theory, it is changed to affection. The reason will be discussed later. Finally, we discuss essential action. That is the essential idea of both Type 7 and Type 8. The former is plan and freedom, and the latter is strength. The action of Type 7 is the flexible action, flying in the sky. On the other hand, the action of Type 8 is the firm substantive action, grounding to the earth. The perspective of the plan of Type 7 enables us to tap into the flow of life, experiencing the essence of joy and curiosity. Yellow is the essence of joy and curiosity, which can be the motivation to explore the unknown, the truth. The perspective of the strength of Type 8 enables us to sense indivisible energetic now, experiencing the essence of strength. Red is the essence of strength. It makes us afraid of nothing, and thus we can be defenseless, bold enough to be open. Orange is the essence of luscious pleasure. It is related to the fusion between yellow and red. That is, luscious pleasure is the fusion between joy and physical vitality. Yellow is related to the third chakra. Orange is related to the second chakra, and red is related to the first chakra. The main method of the diamond approach is called inquiry. The function of yellow aspect in inquiry is described by Almas in the following way.
Curiosity, which is a delight in discovering the truth, is one expression of the yellow aspect. When this quality is present, openness manifests an engaged dynamism, which can then become an active inquiry.
The experience of point 7, which is joy and curiosity, is supported by the experience of point 8, which is strength. Almas said,
Joyfulness of yellow needs another capacity. Not only does inquiry need to be playful and curious, but this curiosity needs to be supported and balanced by a strong energy of red that gives our soul, and thus our inquiry, the capacity to withstand a great deal of pressure. These two essential qualities are fundamental for beginning to engage the inquiry process. The degree of complexity in truth.
In terms of the degree of complexity in truth, we will analyze the difference between the holy idea of Type 8 and that of Type 5. In Ichazo's teachings, the holy idea of Type 8 is called holy truth, and that of Type 5 is called holy omniscience. Holy truth, which is the holy idea of Type 8, is the simplest perspective of truth, and thus it is simply called holy truth. On the other hand, holy omniscience, which is the holy idea of Type 5, is the most complex perspective of truth. This difference can be seen as the difference between the monolithic oneness and the unified complexity of oneness. Almas described the difference between the holy idea of Type 8 and that of Type 5 in the following way.
Holy omniscience is the same perception as holy truth, but with a different emphasis. In holy truth, the emphasis is on the unity of the universe, it is all of the same taste. With holy omniscience, the emphasis is on the differentiations within that unity. While holy truth is analogous to seeing your body as one unity, holy omniscience is seeing that your body has arms, legs, a face, internal organs, and so on, none of which are separate from the whole. It is looking at the same reality or truth from a different angle, viewing the wholeness of reality as a multicolored fabric, seeing all the stars, the planets, the mountains, the rivers, the animals, and the people that are part of it, without isolating them from the context of the unity.
As described by Almas, the perspective of point 8 is the least comprehensive perspective of all perspectives. It tends to create monolithic oneness, or primordial simplicity. In the case of unhealthy Type 8, it is related to the monarchy, or monopoly. As we have seen, the holy idea of Type 8 is the simplest idea about truth. Therefore, it is simply called holy truth. On the other hand, the holy idea of Type 5 is the most inclusively complex idea about truth. Therefore, it is called holy omniscience.
Note 1.
According to Sandra Maitri, point 8 represents the animal soul.
The animal soul is central to any of Type 8s.
Then, Almas said,
When we finally confront this powerful aspect of the soul, we find a dimension of ourself that is very energetic but has a minimum of structure. We can experience the animal soul in this most basic structureless form.
As we can see, point 8 represents the most basic structureless form.
Note 2.
In the Zeptoform theory, The holy idea of type 8 is called holy strength. It brings about the experience of the red energy. Archetypically, this red energy is needed to cause the Big Bang, which is the beginning of the universe. At the moment of the Big Bang, there is no diversity, which is the most primordial and the simplest state. But the energy of the Big Bang causes diversity. In other words, type 8 has the greatest potential for evolution. That will be discussed from many different perspectives in this video series. As already discussed, the essential idea of type 7 and type 8 are called essential action. In the teachings of Ichazo, essential action is called holy work, and it does not include the holy idea of type 8, as illustrated. The holy idea of type 8 is called truth, but in the Zeptoform theory, it is called strength. Superego, ego, and id. The function of will is related to Freud's idea of the superego, which embodies the will of morality. Type 1 tends to have a strong paternal superego, which is related to authority and judgmental decision-making. On the other hand, type 2 tends to have a strong maternal superego, which is related to philanthropy and supportive decision-making. The function of action is related to Freud's idea of the id, which embodies action based on instinctive desire. Type 7 tends to have hyperactive thoughts and makes many plans for various actions to satisfy their pleasure instincts. On the other hand, type 8 tends to act aggressively in order to satisfy their combative instincts. Type 1 has the strongest willpower among all the Enneatypes, while type 8 has the strongest action power, which can support the free action of type 7. Many people tend to think that willpower and action power are the same, or at least proportional within one person, but they can be inversely proportional. For example, the willpower of the superego tends to restrict the action power of the id. In this relationship, as willpower weakens, the activity of action power gets stronger. Related to this, Sandra Maitre described the relationship between the superego and the id in the following way.
The superego draws its energy from the id and in turn uses that force to suppress the id's drives. As long as our superego usurps the energy of aggression from the id and turns it against ourselves, we do not have that energy available to us in a life-affirming way. Our energy instead goes into suppressing ourselves, especially the primitive and uncivilized aspects of ourselves, structured as identity in the animal soul.
As we can see, the willpower of the superego tends to use the vitality of the id in order to fight against the free action of the id. In order to bring the balance between willpower and action power, the function of insight is required. The function of insight is related to Freud's idea of the ego, which embodies insight for integrating the will of the superego and the action of the id. Type 5 tends to develop an intellectual aspect of the ego, relating to scientific insight. On the other hand, Type 4 tends to develop an aesthetic aspect of the ego, relating to artistic insight. As discussed, the function of insight is related to the function of the ego, and it has the following two main definitions. Definition 1. The ego has the core function of distinguishing oneself from others. Type 4 and Type 5 are ego types. Related to this, Riso and Hudson describe these types in the following way.
The 4 and the 5 most clearly feel separate from others. They reinforce their sense of self by staying apart and being different. They turn to the inner world of their imagination to defend their egos and to reinforce their sense of self.
Especially, Type 4 tends to value her originality or uniqueness of the ego identity. Definition 2. The ego has the core function of integrating the superego and the id. That is, the insight of the ego integrates the willpower of the superego and the action power of the id in order to create a coherent sense of self. In this figure, the will of point 2 and the action of point 8 are integrated by the insight of point 4. In this figure, the will of point 1 and the action of point 7 are integrated by the insight of point 5. These integrations will be discussed in the next section. Chapter 1, Section 3, The 6 Types, Processes. When 1 is divided by 7, we get 0.142857, and it repeats. This recurring decimal, 142857, represents disintegration processes. Then, why, do we have to divide 1 by 7? The recurring decimal begins with 1, and this number indicates oneness of all existence. On the other hand, the recurring decimal ends with 7, which is the number of basic elements for creating diversity. For example, 1 week is divided into 7 days. A diatonic scale is composed of 7 musical notes. A body has 7 basic chakras, and the Zeptoform has 7 basic points. That is, in order to create diversity, the oneness, which is 1, needs to be divided by the number of basic elements, which is 7.
Note 1.
1 year is divided into 12 months, but number 12 is not considered to be a number of basic elements for creating diversity for the following reason. Number 12 is not a prime number, it is a composite number. A prime number is greater than 1, and it cannot be divided by any other positive integers without leaving a remainder, decimal, or fraction. Therefore, prime numbers are considered to be building blocks by mathematicians. Number 7 is a prime number because it can be divided by only 1 in itself, which is 7. On the other hand, composite numbers, such as 10 and 12, are seen as the product of prime numbers. Therefore, number 12 is not considered to be a basic number for creating diversity.
Note 2.
The next prime number to number 7 is number 11. The meaning of number 11 will be discussed later in this section. By reversing these disintegration processes, integration processes emerge. These integration processes are divided into 3 categories. In the left figure, 2 processes are moving toward the function of will. In the center figure, 2 processes are moving toward the function of insight. And in the right figure, 2 processes are moving toward the function of action. The meaning of these processes becomes clearer when these are illustrated on the structure of the Zeptoform. These processes are ascending, deepening, and retrieving. Ascending processes are the processes to enhance the function of an upper level. Deepening processes are the processes to deepen insight. That is the process from extroversion to introversion. Retrieving processes are the processes to reconnect to a lower level. However, in this figure, the process from point 1 to point 7 is not moving toward a lower level. This exception can be explained in the following way. The thinking pattern of type 1 has the tendency to suppress his instinctive desire of the lower level. On the other hand, the thinking pattern of type 7 has the tendency to release it. Because of this, in the process from point 1 to point 7, type 1 will be able to release the dynamic flow of instinctive nature that is experienced as the retrieving of the function of the id. The connection between thinking and doing of type 7 is described by Riso and Hudson in the following way.
There is a powerful link in 7s between their thinking and their doing. If they entertain an idea about an activity which they believe will be interesting and enjoyable, they want to do it as soon as possible. Ultimately, their minds are speeding along about 2 steps ahead of them, and they are moving fairly quickly.
Type 1 is the most stoic and rigid type of all the Enneatypes, restricting his own freedom. He has a tendency to suppress the function of instincts, but by experiencing the process from point 1 to point 7, the pleasure instinct of the id is released in the following way, as described by Riso and Hudson.
One's progress from obligation to enthusiasm, from constraint to freedom of action, more playful, and much happier. A great burden has been lifted from them, the burden of unnecessary perfection. They discover that it is possible for them to be flexible. Integrating ones have come down from Olympus to join the human race.
Because the quality of point 7 is related to the freedom of action, the holy idea of type 7 is described by Almas in the following way.
As we study the holy idea of point 7, what we mean by freedom of the assemblage point, which is the freedom that all spiritual traditions attempt to teach us, should become very clear.
In the Enneagram theory, the holy idea of type 7 is called holy plan, but in the Zeptoform theory, it is called essential plan and freedom. That is, essential plan is not a fixed plan, which will be discussed from many different perspectives in this video series.
Additional processes.
There is the system of cell division, in which a pattern starts from 1 and continues by doubling the previous number. It creates the sequence of 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and so on. Then, these numbers will be converted into single-digit numbers, as illustrated. For example, number 16 can be seen as 1 plus 6, which is 7. Number 32 can be seen as 3 plus 2, which is 5. Number 64 can be seen as 6 plus 4, which is 10. And 10 can be seen as 1 plus 0, which is 1, and so on. As we can see, the same pattern, which is 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, and 5, repeats. On the structure of the Enneagram, this pattern creates geometrical symmetry, as illustrated. Each cycle has 6 numbers. Then, by dividing 6 by 11, we can get 0.545454, and it repeats. This algorithmic pattern can be added to the Enneagram, as illustrated. That is, there is the bidirectional process between point 5 and point 4. Then, why do we need to divide the 6 elements by 11? According to a theory of everything, which will be discussed in Chapter 2, this universe is made of 11 dimensions of space-time. Beyond 11 dimensions, the universe would become unstable, and thus, the higher dimensions would collapse to the 11-dimensional space-time. That is represented by the number 11, which is a prime number. In this figure, we can see 6 additional processes, which are not included in the traditional Enneagram theory. These 6 processes can be divided into 3 categories, as illustrated. In the left figure, 2 processes are moving toward the thinking center. In the center figure, 2 processes are moving toward the doing center. And in the right figure, 2 processes are moving toward the feeling center. The meaning of these processes becomes clearer when these are illustrated on the structure of the Zeptoform. These processes are ascending, practicalizing, and retrieving. As we can see in this figure, there is no additional deepening process. Instead, there are 2 practicalization processes. Now, to this figure, previously discussed processes are added. As we can see in this figure, a practicalizing process can also be categorized as an ascending process or a retrieving process. The process from point 4 to point 8, as well as the process from point 5 to point 8, is a practicalizing process, as well as a retrieving process. On the other hand, the process from point 4 to point 1, as well as the process from point 5 to point 1, is an ascending process, as well as a practicalizing process. However, although the process from point 5 to point 1 is an ascending process, it is not moving upward to a higher level. As discussed in the introduction, the position of point 1 can be shifted to an upper level, which is called the supreme vertex. In this way, the process from point 5 to point 1 can be seen as an ascending process. In this figure, we can see 4 ascending processes. When these ascending processes are reversed, retrogressing processes emerge, as illustrated. In the process from point 7 to point 8, as well as the process from point 2 to point 8, the retrogression to the beast level happens, becoming aggressive like a beast. Type 2 has a tendency to cover up her beast-like quality by her angel-like affection, but, in the process from point 2 to point 8, the willpower of point 2 begins to utilize the action power of point 8 in a destructive way. She becomes aggressive as she fails to cover up her inner beast. Riso and Hudson describe this process in the following way.
Because 2s repress many of their negative and aggressive feelings, the move to 8 can be seen as a way of acting them out. The movement toward 8 here is indicative of a failure to keep the lid on any longer. A deeply neurotic 2 at 8 can become physically violent, even murderous. The self-sacrificial martyr, the suffering saint, becomes a monster, sacrificing others.
As described by Riso and Hudson, in the process from point 2 to point 8, the distorted affectional will of type 2 and the beast-like aggressive action of type 8 are connected. When retrieving processes in this figure are reversed, intellectualizing processes emerge. In the process from point 7 to point 1, as well as in the process from point 2 to point 1. Some positive qualities of point 7 and point 2 are suppressed by the distorted intellectual willpower of point 1. In the process from point 7 to point 1, the action power of point 7 is suppressed by the willpower of point 1. This is the conflict between the id and the superego. We have discussed 4 retrogressing processes and 4 intellectualizing processes. When the structure of the retrogressing processes is rotated 120 degrees counterclockwise, the processes in that figure are superposed on the intellectualizing processes, as we can see. As already discussed, the process from point 5 to point 1 and the process from point 4 to point 8 are practicalizing processes. When these processes are reversed, secluding processes emerge. In these processes, people become unproductively imaginative and impractical. When deepening processes are reversed, acting out processes emerge, which are the distorted shift from introvert to extrovert. In the process from point 5 to point 7, type 5 fails to sublimate his intellectual desire in his internal world, and he acts it out with the impulsive pleasure instinct of type 7. He acts impulsively, endlessly pursuing his intellectual interests. In the process from point 4 to point 2, type 4 fails to sublimate her aesthetic desire in her internal world, and she acts it out with the emotional willpower of type 2, which is starved for love. In addition to these 2 processes, the process from point 7 to point 8, as well as the process from point 2 to point 8, can also be seen as an acting out process.
Integration of will and action, by insight.
As discussed previously, in the process from point 2 to point 8, type 2 becomes aggressive like a beast. On the other hand, the process from point 2 to point 4 is considered to be an integration process. In this process, the willpower of point 2 and the action power of point 8 are integrated by the insight of point 4. In the process of deepening the insight of point 4, type 2 will be able to recognize the hidden aspect, the beast. Riso and Hudson describe this process in the following way.
When healthy 2s go to 4, they get in touch with their feelings, especially their aggressive ones. They accept the presence of their negative feelings as fully as they accept their positive feelings. This does not mean that they act on their negative feelings when they are at 4, but that they are willing to acknowledge these feelings in themselves. They become more self-aware and reflective human beings.
The process from point 2 to point 4 is supported by the strength of point 8. It provides the true courage to face what they don't want to see, the beast in herself. That is, the strength of the beast is used to see the beast. In this process, the willpower of point 2 and the action power of point 8 are integrated by the insight of point 4, as illustrated. As discussed previously, in the process from point 7 to point 1, the action power of point 7 is suppressed by the willpower of point 1. This is the conflict between the id and the superego. On the other hand, the process from point 7 to point 5 is considered to be an integration process. In this process, the action power of point 7 and the willpower of point 1 are integrated by the insight of point 5. As already discussed, the unhealthy willpower of point 1 tends to suppress the action power of point 7, but the healthy willpower of point 1, which can make a wise decision, supports the deepening process from point 7 to point 5. That is, a boy, which is represented by point 7, is supported by his father, which is represented by point 1, in the process of becoming an insightful adult, which is represented by point 5. In this process, the action power of point 7 is integrated with the willpower of point 1 by the objective insight of point 5. We have seen the deepening process in the thinking center and in the feeling center. But, in the instinctive center, there is no deepening process. The process from point 8 to point 1 does not exist. Even if there were the process from point 8 to point 1, it would not be a deepening process, because type 1 is not introverted, not an insight type. The integration of beast and God requires multiple processes, as we will see. Type 8, as the beast, is the most aggressive type among all the Enneatypes. In order to bring balance to this tendency, the beast needs to integrate the quality of the angel. That can be accomplished by the process from point 8 to point 2. This is the ascending process, from the beast level to the angel level. Then, this process needs to be followed by the deepening process from point 2 to point 4. The insight of point 4 is needed in order to integrate the beast and the angel. The next phase is the process from point 4 to point 1, as well as the process from point 8 to point 7 and to point 5, as illustrated. In these processes, the willpower of point 1 and the action power of point 7 are integrated by the insight of point 5. Consequently, all functions are integrated. Alternatively, type 8 might experience the process from point 8 to point 5. This is one of the 4 intellectualization processes. Riso and Hudson describe this process in the following way.
The main enticement for 8s to go to 5 is that they see such a development as a tactical retrenchment from assertive action into the safety of thought. They think that they will be able to maintain their power by being shrewder and more premeditated. Instead of acting recklessly, they will attempt to act with more foresight. By being more secretive, they will be able to strike without warning. By being more wily, they will be able to hide from their enemies until they are ready to defeat them utterly.
As we can see, when type 8 develops the intellectual insight of point 5 without developing the conscientious willpower of point 2 and point 1, an intellectual sociopath might emerge. This is called the black beast. Type 8 has a tendency to have antisocial personality disorder, which is related to the underdevelopment of the superego. Therefore, in order to bring balance, type 8 needs to develop and integrate the superego of point 2 and point 1. Because the people with the type 8 personality have powerful energy, having great potential. If they experience the ascending processes and the deepening processes, they will be able to have the abilities to change the world in a constructive way. Related to this, there are many famous historical figures who are type 8, such as Franklin D. Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, Martin Luther King Jr., Mikhail Gorbachev, and Indira Gandhi. However, if they use their powerful energy in a distorted way, they bring great evil to the world. Because of this, Riso and Hudson said,
The two ends of the spectrum of their traits are starkly contrasting. When healthy, no other personality type has as great a capacity for exerting a constructive influence in the lives of so many people. But the reverse is that no other personality type can so completely misuse power or become so totally destructive as unhealthy 8s.
As we have seen, the integration of the out and the in of the instinctive center requires multiple processes. In this section, we discussed the integration of willpower and action power by the function of insight. Chapter 1, Section 4, 3+6 Types, Categories Part 1. As already discussed, Enneatypes can be divided into thinking, feeling, and instinct. These are called the 3 centers. In this section, we will further discuss these centers.
Note:
In the previous 3 sections, we discussed only 6 types. Then, in this section and the following sections, we discuss all Enneatypes.
The instinctive center.
As discussed in Section 1, the out and in of the instinctive center metaphorically symbolize the relationship between the beast and God. Then, the middle of the instinctive center represents human, especially an infant. Type 8 is the extroverted instinctive type, having the tendency to release his or her instinctive impulses. On the other hand, Type 1 tends to suppress his instinctive impulses by his superego-driven conscience. Then, these two opposite tendencies are offset by each other to create the tendency of Type 9. That is, Type 9 tends to dissociate from their instinctive function. In other words, Type 9 as an infant tries to avoid the conflict between the beast and God. Type 9 is considered to be the most out of touch of the instinctive function. Therefore, similar to Type 1, Type 9 is also not an instinctive type by definition. As illustrated in this figure, in the structure of the Zeptoform, Point 9 and Point 1 do not belong to the doing center, which is also called the instinctive center. Point 9 belongs to the feeling center, and Point 1 belongs to the thinking center. As discussed in the introduction, according to Almas, Point 8, Point 9, and Point 1 are called the body of truth, the heart of truth, and the mind of truth. From the bottom, the body of truth was initially located at the perineum, which is the location of the first chakra, but it moved down to the calves. The calf is called the second heart because its muscles work like a pump to push deoxygenated blood back up to the heart. The heart of truth is located at the heart, which is the location of the fourth chakra. The heart of truth is also called holy love. Point 2 and Point 4 can be considered to be part of the heart of truth. The heart is called the second brain because its nervous system communicates with the brain. The mind of truth is located at the vertex, which is the location of the seventh chakra, but it can go up to the supreme vertex. As discussed in the introduction, the location of the supreme vertex is identical to the entry point to the Ba. In ancient Egypt, the Ba is characterized by a human-headed bird, and it is flying out of the physical body. Point 7 and Point 5 can be considered to be part of the mind of truth.
The feeling center.
Type 3 belongs to the feeling center, but it is not a feeling type. The reason will be discussed step by step. According to Riso and Hudson, Type 3 tends to experience the functioning mode. It is the combination of thinking and doing, or thinking and instinct, and it is estranged from feeling. Riso and Hudson describe the functioning mode in the following way.
When threes are in the functioning mode, they are competent, capable, and clear-headed, lending average threes their aura of cool professionalism. However, there are occasions on which they switch to their emotional side and feel things deeply. When they are in feeling mode, though, average threes cannot function very effectively, they can only feel. Many threes have reported that, even when they are in the average levels, not in unhealthy levels, they cannot function and feel at the same time.
When they are experiencing the feeling mode, they cannot function effectively. Therefore, they tend to avoid the feeling mode. In order to develop a mask of God, Type 3 tends to assimilate into the authoritative father figure, which is represented by Point 1. But the motivation of Type 1 and that of Type 3 are different. The authoritative willpower of Type 1 tends to restrict the action power of Type 7 and Type 8. On the other hand, the willpower of Type 3 tends to utilize these action power for its functioning mode. Type 3 and Type 7 are both energetic and flexible for making plans and putting them into action. Type 3 and Type 8 are both ambitious and competitive. In order to make effective connections between willpower and action power, Type 3 tends to develop the intellectual insight of Type 5, but the intellectuality of Type 3 and that of Type 5 are very different in terms of their motives. Riso and Hudson describe their similarities and differences in the following way.
The principal reason these two very different types are confused is that, some average threes, especially if they are intelligent, would like to see themselves as thinkers. Since fives are most stereotypically seen as the intelligent, thinking type, average threes may choose Type 5 rather than the type they actually are. There are many significant dissimilarities between these two types. Fives are just as likely never to seek fame or fortune for their discoveries or creations. Threes, by contrast, are not usually involved in subjects for their own sake. They may change their interests and careers rapidly, if the success and recognition they seek elude them. Moreover, average threes pursue their intellectual work with personal goals in mind, to impress others, to be famous, to be acclaimed as a genius, to beat a rival at a discovery, to win a prestigious prize or grant, and so forth.
As we can see, the intellectual insight of Type 3 is related to pragmatism. As we have seen, Type 3 has the tendency to dissociate from the out and the in of the feeling center.
The thinking center.
Type 6 tends to experience the conflict between the out and the in of the thinking center. However, unlike Type 9 and Type 3, Type 6 does not dissociate from its own center. It can be described in the following way. Type 7, as an extroverted thinking type, tends to focus on the activity of the external world because he does not want to experience any anxiety in his internal world. On the other hand, Type 5, as an introverted thinking type, does not want to experience any anxiety in the social world, and thus he tends to focus on the intellectual investigation of the internal world. Then, Type 6, as an ambiverted thinking type, tends to experience anxiety in both the internal world and the external world. That is, there is no place for Type 6 to escape from the anxiety of the external world as well as the internal world. Because of this, Type 6 tends to be dependent on the authoritative father figure of Type 1. Then, there is the conflict between the out and the in of the instinctive center. That is, unhealthy Type 6 tends to use the aggressiveness of Type 8 in order to fight against the authoritative father figure of Type 1. In other words, unhealthy Type 6 tends to be both dependent and passive-aggressive against the authoritative father figure. Furthermore, Type 6 tends to experience the conflict between the out and the in of the feeling center. Now, we can see that Type 6 tends to experience the conflict between the out and the in of all centers. Also, unlike Type 9 and Type 3, Type 6 does not dissociate from these conflicts. Wing, subtype. A person can have the main type and a subtype. The subtype is located adjacent to the main type in the structure of the Enneagram. For example, two adjacent points to point 9 are point 8 and point 1. Therefore, Type 9 can have Type 8 or Type 1 as a subtype. The subtype is called a wing, and it is expressed by W. For example, Wing 1 is expressed as W1, and Wing 8 is expressed as W8. As already discussed, Type 9 tends to dissociate from the out and the in of the instinctive center. But one of these qualities can be experienced as a wing. Wing 1 brings about intellectual thought to Type 9. On the other hand, Wing 8 brings about the combative instinct to Type 9. That is, the former, which is Wing 1, brings about the characteristics of thinking type, and the latter, which is Wing 8, brings about the characteristics of instinctive type. As already discussed, Type 3 has the tendency to dissociate from the out and the in of the feeling center. However, he can have one of these qualities as a subtype. Wing 2 brings about warmness. Riso and Hudson describe this combination in the following way.
Threes with Wing 2 are more outwardly emotional and friendly, helpful, and generous like twos, while maintaining the sense of poise and self-control cool characteristic of threes. Actors, models, and singers are frequently of this subtype.
Wing 4 tends to bring about the conflict between the pragmatic functioning mode of Type 3 and the sensitive feeling mode of Type 4. Type 6, as an ambiverted type, tends to have two wings, but one of the two wings tends to be slightly emphasized. That will be discussed in Chapter 4.
CP violation.
In this figure, we can see the ratio between extroversion and introversion of each Enneatype. For example, in the thinking center, Type 7 is extroverted and Type 5 is introverted. Then, Type 6, which is located in the middle of the thinking center, is an ambivert. By analyzing this figure, we will see the importance of CP violation. CP violation is the violation of CP symmetry, and CP symmetry is the combination of C symmetry and P symmetry. The former, which is C symmetry, is the symmetry of yang and yin, or extroversion and introversion, and the latter, which is the P symmetry, is the symmetry of left and right. The reason why it is called CP symmetry will be discussed in Chapter 2 from the perspective of physics. The violation of CP symmetry is required for this universe to exist. In this figure, there is no violation of CP symmetry in the instinctive center. That is, Type 8 is extroverted and Type 1 is introverted. However, in this case, there is a problem with the connection between Type 1 and Type 2. As we can see in this figure, there is a gap between the location of type 1 and that of type 2. The problem with this gap can be explained in the following way. Type 1 with wing 2 and type 2 with wing 1 have the same components, the combination of type 1 and type 2. Therefore, in order for the Enneagram theory to be valid, these two types, type 1 with wing 2 and type 2 with wing 1, need to be similar in terms of extroversion and introversion. But, as we can see in this figure, these two types are totally different in terms of extroversion and introversion. Therefore, in order for the Enneagram theory to be valid, the violation of CP symmetry is required. In this figure, we can see CP violation. Because of this CP violation, the gap between type 1 and type 2 is eliminated. As discussed, point 1 represents an extroverted thinking type. Then, point 3 superposes on point 1, and thus, type 3 also represents an extroverted thinking type. As discussed in the introduction, the Zeptoform has 3 layers: the thinking center, the feeling center, and the instinctive center. And point 1 and point 9 are superposed by point 3 and point 6. In addition to point 1, point 3 also represents the violation of CP symmetry, as illustrated in this figure. Other Enneatypes do not violate CP symmetry. For example, unlike type 3, type 9 and type 6 remain at the center. Type 6 is the ambivert, and type 9 is the neutrovert. The difference between ambivert and neutrovert will be discussed in Chapter 4. Chapter 1, Section 5, 3+6 Types, Categories Part 2. In Section 2, we discussed the essential ideas of will, action, and insight. Then, in this section, we will discuss essential harmony, which is composed of 3 essential ideas: hope, trust, and empathy. In the teachings of Ichazo, essential harmony is called holy harmony, and that is the holy idea of type 3. It does not include the holy idea of type 6 and that of type 9. The holy idea of type 6 and that of type 9 are called holy faith and holy love. On the other hand, the essential idea of type 6 and that of type 9 are called essential trust and essential empathy.
Question 1.
With regard to type 6, why is it that the term faith needs to be replaced by the term trust?
Answer.
In order for the Zeptoform theory to be a consistent, all-inclusive theory, the categorization of essential ideas needs to be MISI. MISI stands for mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. With that said, the relationship between trust and faith can be seen in the following way. The concept of faith is included in the spectrum of trust. That is, faith can be seen as the deepest trust. In other words, faith is one type of trust. Therefore, in order for the essential ideas to be all-inclusive ideas, the term faith needs to be replaced by the term trust.
Question 2.
With regard to type 9, why is it that the term love needs to be replaced by the term empathy?
Answer.
As already discussed, in order for the Zeptoform theory to be a consistent and all-inclusive theory, the categorization of essential ideas needs to be me-see. The idea of love is not exclusive to type 9. The idea of love is also valued by type 2. Therefore, in order for the essential ideas to be mutually exclusive, the term love needs to be replaced by the term empathy. The essential idea of type 9 and that of type 2 can be seen as 2 complementary aspects of love that will be discussed in this section. The holy idea of type 9 is called holy love. In the Zeptoform theory, it is called essential empathy, and that is represented by the heart of God. The heart of God is shining green. That is the essence of empathy and compassion. That is also called loving kindness.
Green and magenta.
Green and magenta are the colors of the heart chakra, and they are complementary colors, a pair of colors in terms of after images. For example, if you look at this figure for a while, and then move your eyes to a sheet of white paper, you can see a reversed image. That is, a pink heart can be seen on a green background. This complementary relationship symbolizes the following. The essential quality of green brings about the quality of being lovable and growing up, like the quality of a baby. On the other hand, the essential quality of magenta, or pink, brings about the quality of loving and nurturing, like the quality of a mother. This relationship can be seen in various situations. For example, when you are watering a plant, you are expressing the quality of loving and nurturing, and the plant is expressing the quality of lovable and growing up.
Gold and white.
When complementary colors are merged into one, white emerges. Likewise, when the green of point 9 and the pink of point 2 are merged into one, white emerges. This merging process is catalyzed by honey gold, which is another essential aspect of type 2. Then, this whole process produces the color, golden white as illustrated. This essential aspect is called universal love, or living daylight. Almaz said,
Universal love is an expression of the harmony of the totality.
The essential idea of type 3 is essential hope. From the perspective of essential hope, the following essential qualities tend to be experienced. The pearl, which is also called the essential personality, or personal essence, enables us to function as an essential person. It functions as an interface that connects the transpersonal level with a personal level. By utilizing this interface, we can use any essential aspect effectively in society. The pearl grows by absorbing and metabolizing all essential aspects, enabling us to embody true hope. The pearl is also called the pearl beyond price. The value of the pearl is mainly based on amber gold. Amber gold was discussed in Section 2. Cyan is experienced at the throat, which is the location of the 5th chakra. It brings refined communication skills. By utilizing this capacity through the pearl, we can effectively motivate many people to seek the truth. As discussed, the essential idea of type 3 is essential hope. In the Enneagram theory, that is called holy hope. Then, in order to awaken to the perspective of holy hope, we need to awaken to the perspective of holy law. That is, the realization of holy law brings about true hope. Holy law is the law of harmoniously dynamic functions of reality. The functions of holy law will be discussed later.
The brilliancy diamond pearl.
The pearl, or the personal essence, grows by absorbing and metabolizing all essential aspects. In this process, these aspects are integrated by the diamond guidance. It is called the diamond pearl, or the pearly diamond. When it contains the quality of perfection of the brilliancy, it can be called the brilliancy diamond pearl. 3 aesthetic qualities, brilliance, dispersion, and scintillation, will emerge from the set of surfaces of an ideal cut diamond. Likewise, the experience of these 3 qualities can emerge from the brilliancy diamond pearl.
Brilliance.
Because a diamond has a high degree of hardness, which represents invincible willpower, it can have sharp-cut surfaces. These sharp-cut surfaces, which represent the sharpness of wisdom, can reflect the most amount of light, which is called brilliance, representing the wisdom of brilliancy of type 1.
Dispersion.
Because a diamond has a high degree of density, which represents deep insight, it has a high refractive index of light. This refractive index of light, which represents the analytical capacity of wisdom, breaks transparent light effectively, and it manifests various colors of light. It is called dispersion, representing the wisdom of the diamond guidance of type 5. As we can see, brilliance is related to type 1, and dispersion is related to type 5.
Scintillation.
Relative motions between the diamond and its viewers can create intense sparkles, and these sparkles are called scintillation. The authentic actions of the essential person, or the pearl, can create relative motions in society, causing various essential aspects to shine through. It can be seen as the function of scintillation. As we have seen, the 3 aesthetic qualities of an ideal cut diamond are related to point 1, point 5, and point 3.
Note:
According to Riso and Hudson, point 1, point 5, and point 3 belong to the competency group. That is one of the three harmonic groups. The other two groups are the positive outlook group and the reactive group, as illustrated. Harmonic groups will be discussed further in this video series.
Holy hope and holy law.
As already discussed, the essential idea of type 3 is essential hope. In the Enneagram theory, that is called holy hope. Then, in order to awaken to the perspective of holy hope, we need to awaken to the perspective of holy law. That is, the realization of holy law brings about true hope. Holy law is the law of harmoniously dynamic functions of reality.
Law and perfection.
In the structure of the Zeptoform, holy law of point 3 is connected to holy perfection of point 1. Then, the law of the universe can be seen as perfect. It brings about true hope. True hope, or authentic hope, is different from ordinary hope. Ordinary hope is the hope for the future, wishing for things to get better. It denies the now. In contrast, holy hope is the realization of perfect law of the now. The perfect law of the universe creates perfect harmony. Holy perfection of point 1 is the intellectual aspect of holy will. Then, the intellectual will needs to recognize holy law of point 3 in order to operate the whole universe. Almas said,
The perception that all changes in the universe are unified as one harmonious functioning is the perception of holy law, which we need to understand in order for holy will to be intelligible.
As described by Almas, the recognition of holy law is needed for the function of holy will to be intelligible. The embodiment of holy law is called creation. That is, the intelligence of God's will brings about harmonious creation of the universe based on holy law.
Law and plan.
Holy law of point 3 is the law of the unfoldment of the universe. Then holy plan of point 7 is the harmonious pattern of this unfoldment. That is, the plan, or the pattern, of point 7 can emerge according to the law of point 3. This relationship between the law and the pattern is described by Almas in the following way.
There is a meaningful pattern to its unfoldment. This pattern is always explained by the dominant science of each era. For example, when clouds become dark in a particular way, and reach a certain temperature, rain falls. This is a pattern. The scientific laws explain this through evaporation, condensation, humidity, and so on. Holy plan is not a predetermined plan, but rather, that the universe unfolds according to inherent natural laws.
As we can see, holy plan of point 7 emerges based on holy law of point 3.
Law and omniscience.
The logic behind holy law is called logos. It is the logical principle that governs the whole universe. This logical principle can be recognized from the perspective of holy omniscience of point 5. The insight of omniscience is needed to articulate the plan of point 7. Then, the plan of point 7 needs to be supported by the strength of point 8, which is the dynamic energy of unfoldment. As we have seen, holy law of point 3 is intrinsically connected to point 1, point 7, point 5, and point 8. These connections brings about authentic efficiency in our life. That is the experience of the essential personality.
The awakening of holy ideas.
According to Almas, the awakening of holy ideas is based on the awakening of the head center. He said,
Because the holy ideas are differentiated ways of viewing what is, they are conceptual and so are related to the higher intellectual center. To understand them on an experiential level, is to open the head center. The perspective of the holy ideas is the view of reality that arises when the head center is open, active, and functioning.
Point 1 and point 5 belong to the head center. Point 1 is related to the 7th chakra, and point 5 is related to the 6th chakra. In order to discern holy ideas on an experiential level in the clearest way, the brilliancy diamond, which is the integration of point 1 and point 5, needs to be functioning. The blue essence and the black essence are also related to the head center. Therefore, In order to awaken to holy ideas in the most effective way, the brilliancy diamond needs to integrate blue and black to form the blue-black brilliancy diamond. Then, in order to utilize the perspective of holy ideas in an effective way in our society, the personal essence of Type 3 needs to be functioning.
Question.
The realization of any holy idea is based on the awakening of the head center, as discussed. Having said that, the holy idea of Type 9, for example, is called holy love, or the heart of truth. Then, you might wonder the following. Isn't the realization of holy love, or heart of truth, based on the awakening of the heart center? The realization of holy love is also based on the awakening of the head center. However, when we awaken to holy love, we tend to experience essential qualities of love, which is based on the awakening of the heart center. That is, in this case, the awakening of the head center causes the awakening of the heart center. Then, conversely, the experience of love, which is the function of the heart center, deepens the understanding of love. This understanding is the function of the head center.
The integration of the two realms.
The womb realm mandala and the diamond realm mandala are the most valued of all mandalas in esoteric Buddhism. The womb represents love and support for growth. On the other hand, the diamond, which is also called Vajra, represents wisdom and invincible perfection. The womb realm and the diamond realm are represented by the heart center and the head center, as illustrated. The function of the womb brings us up to adults, leading us to the perfection of diamond. This is the integration of the womb realm and the diamond realm. The personal essence, which is also called the pearl, plays the central role in integrating the womb and the diamond. Related to this integration, Almas described his spiritual vision in the following way.
When the true personal essence is born, it is born in a golden cradle, covered with a sheet of green.
The golden cradle represents the merging gold of point 2, and the sheet of green represents the essential green of point 9. That is, the pearl is born at point 9, and this is the state of the womb. Then, the womb is integrated with the diamond, through the process from point 9 to point 3. That is, the mature pearl can be experienced at point 3. As we have seen, the personal essence, which is also called the pearl, plays the central role in integrating the womb and the diamond. However, this integration is not easily accomplished. In the Zeptoform Theory, that is called the hierarchy problem. The solution to the hierarchy problem will be discussed in this chapter. As already discussed, essential harmony is composed of 3 essential ideas: empathy, hope, and trust. In this section, we do not discuss essential trust, which is the essential idea of Type 6. The essential idea of Type 6 will be discussed in Section 7.
The adapted child.
As discussed in Section 2, will, insight, and action are related to superego, ego, and id. Then, harmony is related to the function of the adapted child. The adapted child is considered to be one of psychological aspects, and it is related to the quality of harmony and disharmony. This psychological aspect has the function to assimilate into parental figures. Type 9, as an infant, has the tendency to assimilate into the maternal figure. That is, the adapted child of point 9 has the tendency to assimilate into the nurturing parent of point 2. Related to this, the relationship between Type 9 and Type 2 is described by Riso and Hudson in the following way.
There are a number of similarities between these types. It is usually average 9s who mistakenly think that they are 2s. 9s, particularly women, would like to be 2s because they believe that 2 is the loving type, and since these 9s also see themselves as loving, they feel that they must therefore be 2s.
As we can see, Type 9 has the tendency to assimilate into the maternal figure of Type 2. However, the characteristics of Type 9 and that of Type 2 are not the same. Type 2 tends to be sympathetic, that is, feeling for someone. On the other hand, Type 9 tends to be empathetic, that is, feeling as someone. The similarities and differences between Type 9 and Type 2 are described by Riso and Hudson in the following way.
There are a number of similarities between these types. But the way 2s and 9s love others is quite different. 9s are unself-conscious, seldom focusing on themselves. They are self-effacing and accommodating, quite content to support others emotionally without looking for a great deal of attention or appreciation in return. Unlike average 9s, average 2s have a very sharp sense of their own identities. They are not particularly self-effacing or accommodating. Rather than being unself-conscious, they are highly aware of their feelings and virtues and are more likely to talk about them.
As we can see, Type 2 is sympathetic, and Type 9 is empathetic. When we are empathetic towards someone, we are experiencing that person from the perspective of that person. We become that person. In other words, in order to be empathetic, we need to set aside our own perspectives. On the other hand, when we are sympathetic towards someone, we are still seeing that person from our own perspectives. According to Riso and Hudson, Type 9 tends to assimilate into other people in the following way.
Average 9s have little sense of who they are apart from those they have identified with. They see a little of themselves in all the types. It is based on their capacity to be receptive to others.
Unlike Type 9, Type 2 is not particularly empathetic. In order to be empathetic, we need to set aside our own perspectives. But, because Type 2 is a willpower type, it is difficult for Type 2 to set aside her own perspective. Because of this, Type 2 tends to be meddlesome. Type 2 wants to take care of people based on her strong will. The adapted child of Type 6 tends to assimilate into the quality of both, Type 2 and Type 1. However, the characteristics of Type 6 and those of these two types are not the same. First, we will discuss the similarities and differences between Type 2 and Type 6. Riso and Hudson said the following.
These two types share a number of key traits. Both are warm and engaging, and want to be liked, although, more precisely, 6s want to have the approval and support of others, whereas 2s want to be loved and to be important to others. Both ingratiate themselves with people. However, unlike 6s, 2s ingratiate themselves from an implied position of superiority. The implication is that they are offering their love and friendship, their approval and advice, rather than that they are seeking it from the other. In short, average to unhealthy 2s believe they will only get love by having others depend on them, whereas average to unhealthy 6s increasingly fear becoming dependent on others, while actually becoming more dependent.
Next, we will discuss the similarities and differences between Type 1 and Type 6. Type 1 tends to be authoritative. On the other hand, Type 6 tends to be loyal. Riso and Hudson describe the differences and similarities of Type 1 and Type 6 in the following way.
1s are certain, and try to convince others that they know the optimal way to do things. 6s are uncertain, and rely on reassurance, backup, familiar procedure, or the sanction of previously tested ideas and philosophies to help them come to decisions. Both are should and must people, both feel obligated to take care of all duties before relaxing. 6s look outside themselves too much, for permission to act from an authority figure, or belief system, which will tell them what to do. 6s became connected with their protective figures. This was the person who occupied the traditional patriarchal position in the family. Most often this was their father's, or a father figure.
As discussed, the adapted child of Type 6 tends to assimilate into the value system of both, Type 2 and Type 1. Unlike Type 9 and Type 6, the adapted child of Type 3 tries to be independent from the maternal figure of Type 2. But it tends to assimilate into the authoritative paternal figure of Type 1. Then, there is a problem with the authenticity of Type 3. That will be discussed in conjunction with the difference between Type 1 and Type 3. Type 1 tends to be authoritative and wants to be authentic. On the other hand, Type 3 tends to be decorative, meritocratic, and pragmatic. Riso and Hudson described the similarities and differences between type 1 and type 3 in the following way.
Average 1s and average 3s are sometimes mistaken because both types are efficient and highly organized. Both are highly task-oriented and tend to put their feelings on the back burner to get things done. Both share a desire to improve themselves and to meet high standards, although the basis of their standards and their key motivations are quite different. 1s are inner motivated by strong consciences. Average 3s, by contrast, are efficient pragmatists, primarily interested in success and prestige, trying to excel to overcome feelings of family shame.
1s strive for moral perfection in society, but 3s strive for the perfection of their own self-image in order to get social status and recognition. That is, while 1s want to be perfect, 3s want be seen as perfect. As already discussed, the adapted child has the tendency to assimilate into other people, especially parental figures. Related to this, Type 9, Type 6, and Type 3 are described by Riso and Hudson in the following way.
Their identity depends on their identifications with others. They live through others, or else, live through the real or imagined reaction of others to them.
As we have seen, Type 9, Type 6, and Type 3 can be seen as adapted child types, but they can also be seen as harmony types. The process from point 9 to point 6 and to point 3 can be seen as the process of developing a personality. This process will be discussed in the next section. Chapter 1, Section 6, 3+6 Types, Processes Part 1. In this section, we will discuss the process from point 9 to point 6 and to point 3. This process can be seen as the process of developing a personality. The origin of the word personality is persona, which originally referred to a theatrical mask. Related to this, in the process of developing a personality, a narcissistic golden mask is created, as we will see.
The seminal point.
Point 9 is called the seminal point. Seminal is related to seed and semen, implying the essential influence on later development. Point 9, as a seed, is located above point 8. Point 8 represents the fundamental ground of our physical life, which is the survival instinct. Then, point 9, as a seed, or an infant, on the ground, is nurtured by the mother quality of point 2. This is the process from point 9 to point 7, supported by the nurturing function of point 2. In this process, the infant is brought up to a boy. Then, a paternal figure of point 1 facilitates the process from 7 to 5 as illustrated. In this process, the boy becomes an insightful adult. This is the process from the out to the in of the thinking center. However, the process from 7 to 5 tends to be replaced by the process from 7 to 1 as illustrated. The process from 7 to 1 is a disintegration process. That is, the boy, which is represented by point 7, is negatively influenced by his father, which is represented by point 1. Because the boy is very frustrated by the restriction from his father, he is connected to the aggressiveness of the beast by the process from point 7 to point 8, as illustrated. Then, there is the conflict between the beast and God. It is the conflict between the out and the in of the instinctive center. Then, type 9 tends to dissociate from this conflict. That is, the beast-like id of type 8 is isolated, and the godlike superego of type 1 stays undeveloped. Additionally, type 9 assimilates into the angel-like superego of type 2 by imitating it. By doing so, he or she covers up the beast-like id as illustrated. In this state, type 9 lacks the action power of type 8, as well as the willpower of type 1. This is called the state of lazy sleeping. Sandra Maitre described this state of sleeping in the following way.
9's laziness is grounded in a universal issue, a basic inattention shared by most of humanity. This laziness is about our state of consciousness as unenlightened human beings. From a spiritual perspective, the fact of asleepness, and our inertia, in remaining so, is the principal and fundamental issue. This aspect of the laziness is such that we don't even know that there is a problem.
When the sleeping mode of point 9 is very deep, type 9 also loses the action power of point 7 as illustrated. Next, in the process from point 9 to point 6, the infant becomes a youth and begins to face his father as illustrated. This father can be seen as a distorted interpretation of God. This God has an empty hole in his heart, which is a reflection of the youth's lack of trust. Point 6 is connected to the beast in an unhealthy way, becoming aggressive. That is, the youth becomes both dependent and passive-aggressive against the authoritative father figure. The process from point 9 to point 6 is described by Riso and Hudson in the following way.
Nines begin to identify more strongly with protectors. They use passive-aggressive tactics to assert their own needs, but in ways which they hope will not alienate their supporters. Their anxiety and rage can explode hysterically in irrational rants, random acts of violence, or paranoid delusions about the people around them, in the manner of unhealthy 6s. The person who was once so easygoing becomes hysteric, anxious, fearful, tearful, panicked.
This is the process from the lazy sleeping of point 9 to the nightmare of point 6. Unhealthy 6s tend to have paranoid personality disorder. The adapted child tends to be dependent on parental figures, and it tends to rebound into passive aggressiveness. According to Riso and Hudson, these two tendencies, dependency and passive aggressiveness, are mostly seen in type 9 and type 6.
Note:
Motivations are related to abilities, but, in some cases, motivations and abilities are inversely proportional. The core motivation of type 6 is trust. 6s want to trust someone or something. However, they are the most skeptical of all Enneatypes. That is, the trust of type 6 tends to be reversed to distrust. In this way, harmony and disharmony are two sides of the same coin. Type 6 is one of the three harmony types, but, in the disintegration process, the harmony of type 6 tends to be reversed to disharmony. In the process from point 6 to point 3, the characteristics of point 2 and point 4 disappear, as illustrated. That is, type 3 has a tendency to offset the out and the in of the feeling center. This dissociation from feelings can be seen as an unhealthy strategy to escape from the nightmare of type 6. Type 3 is called the achiever. In order to achieve something pragmatically, type 3 tends to dissociate from their feeling functions and tends to wear a golden mask. In this process, assimilation with the authoritative paternal figure, which is represented by point 1, is strengthened in order to develop a mask of God. The narcissistic tendency of type 3 is described by Riso and Hudson in the following way.
Average 3s are the most narcissistic of the personality types. But, more precisely, they are in love with their inflated image, rather than their actual selves. Instead of loving themselves as they really are, they love a false facade. The irony is that, behind the facade, is a deeply hidden dependency on others, a dependency they cannot acknowledge. Because of the demands of their narcissism, they feel like nobody without the attention of others.
As we have seen, the process toward point 3 represents a development process of facade, persona, or personality, developing the mask of desirable self-image. Then, the process from point 3 to point 9 represents the regression process to the infant state. This regression was described by Riso and Hudson in the following way.
3s are usually focused on developing their careers, achieving, and getting ahead. But when they go to 9, they become strangely unresponsive and unfocused. When they go to 9, their lack of development are laid bare. They may regress to earlier parts of their life, replaying childhood triumphs or traumas. Genotype and phenotype.
A complete set of genetic material, which is made up of multiple genes or a single gene, has many different types, and they are called genotypes. When a genotype is expressed as an observable characteristic, such as eye color, it is called a phenotype. In other words, the genotype is considered to be a genetic blueprint, and that is used to create the phenotype. Phenotypes have many different variations. Personality traits, for example, are also considered to be phenotypes, and they are called behavioral phenotypes.
Epigenetics.
The genotype plus the epigenetic influence creates the phenotype. Epi stands for in addition to or outside of. Therefore, the epigenetic influence is the non-genetic influence, such as the environmental influence. The epigenetic influence can activate and deactivate the functions of the genotype. Because of this mechanism, the genotype and the phenotype are not the same.
Genomics.
Symbolically, the Zeptoform can be seen as the genome. The genome is the full component of genetic material in a cell. It contains all genotypes. Then, the process from point 9 to point 6 and to point 3 can be seen as the developmental stages of a cell. As we have seen in this section, this is the developmental process of personality. That is, in this process, symbolically, genotypes are transformed into phenotypes. That will be discussed step by step. First, point 9 represents the stem cell. That is the earliest stage of a cell. Stem cells have not yet developed their own unique identity, and thus they are all identical. Related to this, type 9 is described by Riso and Hudson in the following way.
Their sense of self is undefined. Average 9s have little sense of who they are, apart from those they have identified with. They see a little of themselves in all the types. Even relatively healthy 9s still have a somewhat diffused sense of self, because it is based on their capacity to be receptive to others, and to be unself-conscious.
As discussed, stem cells are all identical, but each stem cell has the potential to differentiate into various types of cells. It is called pluripotency. Related to this, type 9 is described by Al Maas in the following way.
Traditionally, point 9 is seen as the seminal point in the Enneagram map, in that the other 8 points can be seen as different variations growing out of the experience of point 9. In other words, all other points have implicit within them the ground of point 9.
He also said,
Point 9 forms the center, out of which all the other points on the Enneagram, representing both holy ideas and the Enneatypes, emanate or differentiate.
As already discussed, the potential to differentiate into various types of cells is called pluripotency. Related to this, as we will see in Chapter 3, the worldview of type 9 is related to the pluralistic worldview. The process from point 9 to point 6 represents the process of cell division. In this process, a stem cell is differentiated into different types of cells. Related to this, according to many Enneagram teachers, the variance among type 6 is the most noticeable. Finally, the process from point 6 to point 3 represents the creation of mature types of cells. In these processes, genotypes are transformed into phenotypes. As already discussed, type 9, type 6, and type 3 are adapted child types. The adapted child has the tendency to adapt to the value system of his or her parents. In other words, these 3 types are susceptible to epigenetic influence. For example, according to Riso and Hudson, type 3 has the following tendency.
3s are unconsciously driven to become whatever was most valued in their family of origin. Thus, 3s from families who valued business acumen and entrepreneurial skills may test high in 8. 3s from families where intellectual achievement was paramount may test high in 5, and families that value artistic expression would likely produce 3s who would test high in 4.
As we can see, the phenotypes of type 3, in terms of personality traits, are heavily influenced by the environmental effect.
The nature of nurture.
People tend to actively select, interpret, modify, and create their own environments. These tendencies are based on their genetic propensities for experiencing the world. In other words, environments are not just passively given, but they are constructed by genes. That is called the nature of nurture. For example, the genetic differences of children tend to elicit different responses from their parents. If children tend to enjoy reading, their parents are more likely to read to them. In other words, the genetic blueprint of children is controlling the environmental effects.
Heritability.
Heritability is a statistic that is used to estimate the degree of genetic influence. For example, the heritability of eye color is close to 100%. Robert Plomin says,
Psychological traits are all substantially heritable, about 50% on average. All psychological traits show significant and substantial genetic influence.
Heritability is not constant. It changes over the course of our lives. Related to this, Robert Plomin gives us the following question.
As you go through life, would you imagine the effects of heredity become more important, or less important? Most people will usually guess less important for two reasons. First, it seems obvious that we are continually and cumulatively buffeted by environmental winds. The longer we live, the more we experience the impact of parents, friends, relationships, and jobs, as well as accidents and illnesses.
However, contrary to this assumption, the answer is the following.
One of the big findings from behavioral genetic research is counterintuitive: genetic influences become more important as we grow older. No psychological trait shows less genetic influence with age. The increasing heritability continues throughout adulthood to about 80% heritability at the age of 65.
The reason for the increase in heritability is related to the nature of nurture. That is,
genetic effects could be amplified as we increasingly select, modify, and create environments correlated with our genetic propensities.
as we can see, the genetic effects snowball into larger and larger effects. It is called genetic amplification. Each enneatype tends to actively select, interpret, modify, and create his or her own environment based on the motivation of his or her enneatype. Because of this, the characteristics of one's enneatype tend to be amplified.
Note:
Paradoxically, in the case of adapted child types, they might resemble other enneatypes because of their motivations to adapt. This ability to adapt, or the ability to absorb the characteristics of other enneatypes, can be used in a constructive way in the process of integration. That will be discussed in the next section.
The hierarchy problem.
As discussed in this section, point 9 represents the state of lazy sleeping. In this sleeping state, the out and in of the instinctive center are not functioning. In the Zeptoform Theory, this disharmonization among the three levels is called the hierarchy problem. Unlike type 9, type 3 tends to utilize the function of the out and the in of the instinctive center. However, he tends to dissociate from the out and the in of the feeling center. This is another type of hierarchy problem, and it is called the functioning mode. Type 3 has the tendency to use the quality of type 8, which brings about autonomy from one's mother. On the other hand, type 9 has the tendency to assimilate into the quality of type 2, which brings about fusion with one's mother. Then, as Almas says,
autonomy and fusion are contradictory states. Autonomy becomes the personal essence, and closeness with mother becomes the merging essence. There is the belief that it is not possible to experience the personal essence and the merging essence at the same time.
As we can see, the merging essence is related to merging with a maternal figure, but the personal essence, which encompasses the red essence, is related to separation or independence from the maternal figure. Therefore, it is not easy to integrate the feeling mode and the functioning mode. As we have seen, the integration of the feeling mode and the functioning mode is not easily accomplished. That is called the hierarchy problem, as already discussed. In this figure, we can see two different processes to reach point 3. In these processes, point 3 is located at different positions, and thus it is experienced differently. In the former process, which was discussed in this section, we experience an empty hole in our hearts. As we can see, in the left figure, the quality of point 9, which is in the heart, is missing. It indicates the lack of quality of empathy, becoming excessively pragmatic. Also, in this figure, the one who is wearing the golden mask is still a child. On the other hand, in the right figure, which represents the experience of the latter process, the quality of point 9 is remaining in the heart. Also, the one who is wearing the mask is an adult. That is, there is no dependency on recognition from others, no attachment to the mask. We will be able to use the mask with awareness in a constructive way. However, the qualities of the out and the in of the feeling center are still missing in both cases. That is called the hierarchy problem, as already discussed. In order to integrate the qualities of feelings to the functioning mode, we need to experience the processes in this figure. The processes on the left figure are the processes of developing personality. On the other hand, the processes on the right figure are the processes of transforming the personality into the essential personality. That is, the experience of developing personality can be seen as a precondition for experiencing essential personality. This condition can be illustrated by the following metaphor. In order to climb over a wall, or transcend a wall, we must first build a wall, which represents the development of personality. That is, in order to transcend personality, we must first develop personality. There is another metaphor. In order to master martial arts in the most effective way, we must first imitate the movement of our master. The master is the essential personality, and the imitation is personality. The essential personality, or the personal essence, which is the transcendence of personality, is described by Almas in the following way.
The understanding of human development, related to the realization of the personal essence, is the core of a whole perspective, which we refer to as the diamond approach. The personal essence is a central aspect. The personal essence is the main development in essential realization, which integrates the other aspects of essence into itself as it develops, as well as integrating the functional capacities of the various aspects. The personal essence is a central aspect.
As described by Almas, in the diamond approach, the personal essence or the essential personality, which is also called the pearl, is considered to be a central aspect of essence. In the next section, we will see how we need to develop the personal essence. Chapter 1, Section 7, 3+6 Types, Processes, Part 2. As discussed in the previous section, the processes on the left figure are the processes of developing personality. On the other hand, the processes on the right figure are the processes of transforming the personality into the essential personality. In the process from point 3 to point 6 and to point 9, we can experience the authentic quality of type 6 as well as type 9. Then, after this process, we can experience the process from point 9 to point 3 without losing the feeling mode. These processes will be discussed step by step.
The process from 3 to 6.
Point 3 represents a golden mask, which indicates the imitation of God's will. Then, in the process from point 3 to point 6, the unhealthy desire of type 3 needs to be recognized from the perspective of type 6. From the perspective of point 6, we need to observe the functioning mode of type 3. The functioning mode of type 3 dissociates from the traits of point 2 and point 4. These traits are the out and the in of the feeling center. When type 3 dissociates from feelings, he assimilates into the thinking of point 1 in a distorted way. Then, in order to retrieve the function of feelings, he has to experience the process from point 1 to point 2 and to point 4, as illustrated. In the process from point 1 to point 2, type 3 experiences a close relationship with others. Then, in the process from point 2 to point 4, his golden mask becomes transparent. In the process from point 3 to point 6, some negative emotions are experienced at first. Riso and Hudson describe this experience in the following way.
Going to 6 can be frightening for 3s, because in doing so, they commit themselves to someone else, exposing themselves to the fear of being rejected. Genuine intimacy with others is especially threatening to threes, because they have come to believe that only their image and accomplishments are valuable.
When Type 3 overcomes the fear and anxiety at point 6, he will be transformed in the following way, according to Riso and Hudson.
Threes begin letting others see their real feelings and vulnerabilities. When threes go to 6, they find the courage to explore their fears and genuine emotional needs, and, because they often do so within a committed relationship, they have a firm foundation upon which to begin to develop their authentic selves. When they move to 6, threes no longer worry about impressing others with their prestige, success, or status, nor do they aggrandize themselves. Threes have stopped focusing on their own image, and as it drops away, bit by bit, their real self emerges.
As illustrated in this figure, the process from point 2 to point 4 needs to be supported by the true strength of point 8. When we are experiencing true strength, we are afraid of nothing. We can face the truth. As we can see, through the perspective of Type 6, we can experience the authentic strength of point 8. Related to this, in the teaching of E. Chazo, the holy idea of Type 6 is also called holy strength. As discussed in some previous sections, the functioning mode of Type 3 is intrinsically connected to the strength of Type 8. However, in order for Type 3 to experience the authentic strength of Type 8, the perspective of Type 6 is required. Average Type 3 tends to experience the strength of Type 8 in a distorted way. Related to this, the difference between Type 3 and Type 8 is described by Riso and Hudson in the following way.
In general terms, both 8s and 3s are ambitious and competitive. Both types want to rise above others. The difference is that 3s fear failure deeply, because they see it as a personal humiliation, a potential occasion for being rejected as worthless, their deepest fear. By contrast, 8s see failure as an opportunity to learn something, and come back stronger.
We have seen the process from point 3 to point 1, to point 2 to point 4, and to point 6. In the last process, which is the process from point 4 to point 6, the perspective of point 4 is deepened at point 6. That is, holy origin of point 4 can be realized from holy faith of point 6. In other words, we can awaken to our true origin through faith in God. Because of this, Almas said,
Holy origin depends upon the realization of holy faith.
As described by Almas, in order to deepen the perspective of holy origin of point 4, holy faith of point 6 needs to be realized. In the Zeptoform Theory, holy faith is called holy trust or essential trust. When we awaken to essential trust or holy faith, we are able to surrender our personal will to God's will. It is the unconditional trust in God's will. In this figure, Type 6 is facing God. It is like facing a mirror, which is reflecting the infinite possibilities of ourselves. Because these possibilities are the reflection from the mirror, the right side and the left side in the figure are reversed, except for the character of Type 6. Type 6 is illustrated in several colors, but the front side of this Type 6 is shining with white. White is the essence of trust, and it is the reflection of God's light. It represents the trust in God. It brings the deepest will to search for the truth. Because of this, white is also called the essence of will. Brilliancy is the will of God, and white is the will for faith in God.
The process from 6 to 9.
The process from point 6 to point 9 is the process of returning to the heart of God, which brings harmony. That is described by Riso and Hudson in the following way.
6s need to resolve their ambivalence and their anxiety about themselves and others. This is precisely what happens when they go to 9. Integrating 6s are emotionally stable, peaceful. No longer reactive to people, they are able to form a stable union with others.
The ambivalence of Type 6 is represented by the mixture of warm colors and cool colors, as illustrated. The flip side of ambivalence is the neutrality of type 9, which is represented by the neutral color, green. Related to this, when you turn the number 6 upside down, it becomes the number 9. When the mixture of warm colors and cool colors are fused into green, white emerges. That is the color of the baby. This pure white baby is surrounded by green light. According to Almas, the quality of green is related to the quality of virgin newness and a newborn infant. On the other hand, white is the essence of trust, and that is the essential aspect of type 6. That is, when point 6 is merged into point 9, the essence of type 6, which is white, is awakened. In the process from point 6 to point 9, the essence of trust, which is white, is strengthened by the essence of compassion, which is green. Almas described this relationship in the following way.
The chest is the green. When the green center is open, there is trust. Trust and compassion come from the same center. The nature of trust has to do with the openness and kindness of the heart. Ultimately, trust is connected to compassion. Compassion goes along with trust. Being compassionate and being trusting are almost the same thing. They have to do with the heart center. If someone is compassionate toward you, you trust him.
As we can see, the trust of point 6 and the compassion of point 9 are two sides of the same coin. In the process from point 6 to point 9, point 6 merges into point 9, becoming one in the heart of God. That is, in this process, point 6, which was located on the outside of the heart of God, disappears. In other words, when we become one with the heart of God, we no longer need to trust God from the outside. As discussed in the introduction, point 6 and point 3 emerge temporarily in order to make 9 points. We have seen the process from point 6 to point 9. This is the process of entering into the heart. When point 6 is inverted from the front side to the back, entering into the heart is experienced from the back. We can enter into the heart through the back. According to some spiritual teachings, entering into the heart through the back is more effective. When we draw 2 circles, setting point 6 as the center of each circle, the shape of the vesica piscis emerges. The vesica piscis is the intersection of 2 discs with the same radius. The center of each disc needs to lie on the perimeter of the other disc. In the teachings of sacred geometry, vesica piscis is considered to be the core of every creation. When 2 people are facing each other with trust and empathy, point 6 and point 9 are superposed, as illustrated. When you are supporting someone from the back, this person and you are seeing the same direction, experiencing the same perspective. This is the experience of empathy. Related to this, as discussed previously, entering into the heart through the back can be more effective. In the process from point 6 to point 9, the trust of point 6 is deepened by the empathy of point 9, as we have seen. This is the process of centering, the centering to the heart. Then, through the function of point 9, the quality of point 8, which is the authentic strength of the beast, is awakened. This is the process of grounding. Because of the grounding, the trust of point 6 is empowered by the strength of point 8. Related to this, Almas said,
Holy faith is the transformation of the soul, that happens as a consequence of understanding holy strength.
When this transformation happens,
the experience is beyond faith. It is then, simply the direct experience of the strength of essence, which we call holy strength.
As described by Almas, holy faith is empowered by the experience of the essential quality of strength. Then, that is called holy strength. Because of this, in the teachings of Ichazo, in addition to holy faith, holy strength is also considered to be the holy idea of type 6. But there is an inconsistency in the usage of these terms. That is, the essential quality of strength is not considered to be the essential quality of type 6. That is considered to be the essential quality of type 8. Then, in order to solve this inconsistency, holy strength needs to be considered to be the holy idea of type 8. That is, the holy idea of type 6, which is holy faith, is empowered by the holy idea of type 8, which is holy strength.
Essential trust, and basic trust.
Basic trust is unconscious trust. Here is an example of basic trust. We have no doubt that the sun rises from the east in the morning. We know. It happens each morning, and we don't even think about it. Basic trust is this kind of unconscious trust. When basic trust becomes conscious, it is called the essential idea of trust, or holy faith. Alma said,
Holy faith is the closest idea to basic trust itself. It is a differentiated perception of basic trust. Basic trust is not differentiated enough to be a feeling, or an idea. When it becomes explicit, we call it holy faith.
As described by Almas, when basic trust becomes explicit, it is called holy faith. In the Zeptoform Theory, this explicit trust, or conscious trust, is called essential trust, or holy trust. As discussed in Section 5, the awakening of any holy idea is based on the awakening of the head center. On the other hand, the experience of basic trust is based on the activation of the gut center. That is, basic trust is sensed in the gut, and it manifests through actions, rather than thinking or feeling. That is related to the characteristic of type 8. Then, basic trust of type 8 is needed to empower the essential idea of type 6, which is essential trust. The process from point 9 to point 6 was discussed in Section 6. In this process, we dissociate from the heart of God. Because of this dissociation, the trust of point 6 is transformed into distrust. Also, the distrust of point 6 is strengthened by the basic distrust of point 8. The basic distrust has the beast quality. That is, the distrust of point 6 is connected to the aggressiveness of point 8. Almas said,
From this distrust arises what we call the beast. That is not only frustrated and angry, but also hates what is good and positive. It is how we feel about God in our guts.
As described by Almas, basic distrust is sensed in one's gut, the same as basic trust. That is the quality of the aggressive beast. In order to transform basic distrust to basic trust, the deepening process from point 2 to point 4 needs to be experienced. This is the process from the out to the in of the heart center. In this process, the will of love, which is represented by point 2, embraces the beast of point 8 instead of covering up the beast. That is, the will of point 2 and the action of point 8 are integrated by the insight of point 4. In this integration process, the beast begins to deepen the sense of trust and expresses true strength. That is, when universal love embraces the beast, basic distrust is transformed into basic trust. Then, the experience of universal love is empowered and enriched by the strength of the basic trust. From the fusion between love and strength, compassion emerges. That is, the passion of compassion requires the strength of point 8. Compassion is love in action.
Note 1.
In the diamond approach, the green essence is considered to be the essential aspect of compassion, but in the Zeptoform theory, that is considered to be the essential aspect of empathy. When the empathy of green is supported by the strength of red, it can be called compassion.
Note 2.
The core motivation of type 9 is empathy. Nines want to be empathetic toward people, and thus they are high in agreeableness. Related to this, average 9s are evasive. They do not want to experience any conflict with others. They do not want to experience any mental conflict in their psyche. That is related to the sleeping mode of type 9. Because of this evasiveness of the sleeping mode, ironically, average 9s are not good at experiencing pain empathy. Pain empathy is the experience of another person's pain. Average 9s do not want to feel any pain, including another person's pain.
Note 3.
When the empathy of type 9 is supported by the strength of type 8, true courage will emerge in order to face any pain empathically. The difference between fake compassion and true compassion can be described in the following way. Fake compassion tries to ease the suffering of people in the short term, and it could make things worse over time. On the other hand, true compassion encourages people to face their own problems, supporting everyone to face the truth, courageously. Then, it could resolve the problem permanently.
The process from 9 to 3.
In the process from point 9 to point 3, we can reach the supreme vertex. In this process, the level of trust evolves. That is, the trust on the heart level and that of the head level are different. Almas described this difference in the following way.
We can see different levels of trust. For instance, a person could have the green center, which is the heart center, open all the time, or most of the time. The person will tend to trust other people easily. Sometimes, she will trust other people, even though they are not trustworthy. That is, you trust someone, and it turns out you were wrong in trusting them. That happens, because the green center, the heart center, is open, but the head center has not opened to allow for objective trust, which is knowing. She has the ability to trust, but there is no wisdom.
As we can see, the trust on the heart level and that on the head level are different. In order to recognize holy faith, or essential trust, the head center needs to be awakened. As discussed in Section 5, the recognition of any holy idea requires the activation of the head center. As we have seen, there are 3 levels of trust, and they are related to point 8, point 9, and point 1. As discussed in the introduction in Section 4, these 3 points are called the body of truth, the heart of truth, and the mind of truth. According to Almas, in order to awaken to holy faith of point 6, we need to deepen the faith in truth of these 3 levels. The process from point 9 to point 3 is experienced as the process from point 9 to point 7, to point 5, and to point 3. Finally, we can experience the process from point 4 to point 1, and this process needs to be guided by the diamond guidance of point 5. In this process, point 1 goes up to the supreme vertex, as illustrated. Because this process is guided by the diamond guidance of point 5, the process from point 4 to point 1 is experienced as the process from the point diamond to the brilliancy diamond. When we experience brilliancy through the perspective of the point, the perfection of brilliancy becomes our true identity. This realization was described by Almas in the following way.
Brilliancy is the father of the point. Through the function of the point, you can attain a quality of brilliancy. That is more like what people call God. Brilliancy is frequently related to God's will. The point is a brilliant point that is who you are, your true self. It is part of the living ocean of brilliancy.
In the process from point 4 to point 1, the perfect value can be recognized as one's true identity. We have seen the processes in this figure. By integrating these processes, universal love and universal wisdom will be integrated. This integration can be seen as the integration of the womb realm and the diamond realm.
Note 1.
In this section, we discussed the process from point 9 to point 7, as well as the process from point 9 to point 2. When these processes are illustrated on the structure of the Enneagram, geometrical symmetry emerges. These processes are not included in the traditional Enneagram theory.
Note 2.
In this section, we discussed the process from point 5 to point 3, as well as the process from point 4 to point 6. When these processes are illustrated on the structure of the Enneagram, geometrical symmetry emerges. These processes are not included in the traditional Enneagram theory.
Note 3.
In this section, we discussed the processes in this figure. When these processes are illustrated on the structure of the Enneagram, geometrical symmetry emerges. These processes are not included in the traditional Enneagram theory.
Note 4.
Other additional processes were mainly discussed in Section 3. These additional processes which are not included in the traditional Enneagram theory, create geometrical symmetry. According to many scientists, the symmetrical beauty of a theory suggests its correctness. Although symmetrical elegance alone cannot definitively determine correctness, it is considered one of the greatest indicators of objective truth. This figure, which will be discussed in Chapter 3, represents the developmental levels of worldviews. The developmental process of personality is represented by the process towards the modern level. Symbolically, this process can also be seen as the developmental process of a cell, as discussed in the previous section. Then, if we reverse this process, it becomes the process of cellular reprogramming, which is also called nuclear reprogramming. That is, the process from modern to postmodern, which is the process from point 3 to point 6 and to point 9, can be seen as the process of nuclear reprogramming. In the process of nuclear reprogramming, pluripotent stem cells are created. As already discussed, point 9 represents the stem cell, and it has the potential to differentiate into various types of cells. It is called pluripotency. Related to this, the worldview of type 9 represents the pluralistic worldview, as illustrated. That is, the postmodern worldview is also called the pluralistic worldview. On the modern level, we tend to value technological development, but, in the process from modern to postmodern, the returning process from valuing technology to valuing nature emerges, particularly within the ideology of progressives. Therefore, it can be called progressive reversion. While progressive reversion may sound like an oxymoron due to the juxtaposition of progressive and reversion, it reflects the nuanced evolution of ideological perspectives of postmodern level. It indicates the ideological shifts towards valuing nature within progressive thought. Progressive reversion includes the technology of cellular reprogramming. The concept of cellular reprogramming is related to the liberty from genetic destiny, that is based on the ideology of the feeling mode. Then, in the process from postmodern to metamodern, and to the transcendent level, we can integrate the feeling mode and the functioning mode. In other words, in this process, we can solve the hierarchy problem. This figure will be discussed in Chapter 3.
Cyclical process.
As discussed in this section, in the process from point 6 to point 9 and to point 3, we can awaken to our true identity, becoming one with God. But, if we attempt to hold on to this self-image, the mask of God develops. This is represented by the process from point 3 to another point 3, as illustrated. For example, a guru deifies his identity, or self-image, so that his followers worship him. By doing so, the guru develops egotistic pride, as a result of being attached to his godlike self-image. In order to circumvent this trap, the guru has to detach from his deified self-image, taking off the mask of God. Then, he has to deepen his faith in God. This process is represented by the process from point 3 to point 6, as illustrated. As we can see, there is the cyclical process of point 6, point 9, and point 3. This structure is called vesica piscis, as discussed previously. In the teachings of sacred geometry, vesica piscis is considered to be the core of every creation. In the next chapter, the Zeptoform is used to describe the creation process of the universe, as well as music.